All right, today we're going to be looking at the equation of a circle. So there's a standard form for the equation of the circle, and it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And what we're looking at here is this h and k actually represent an ordered pair that's going to be the center of the circle. So here we would say hk, so h is going to represent the x value of that coordinate, and k is the y value. It's the center, and our r is going to be what you would think it would be, which is our radius. Okay, so if we look at an example here, sometimes you're going to be given the center and the radius, or the diameter, but if you're given the diameter, you can easily determine what the radius is just by dividing it in two. And we want to write the equation for the circle. So for the first one, say that our center of that circle is the 0.53. So to write the equation for that circle, it would be x minus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared. And that's going to be equal to our radius squared, which we know is 4. Okay, if we look at one down here, we've got some negatives in our center and also the diameter. So here, if my center is negative 2, then this would be x minus a negative 2, which I know is plus 2 squared, plus y minus a negative 11, which is going to be plus 11 squared, and then that's going to be equal to, now I want to take my radius squared, so if the diameter is 18, then r is going to be 9, and if I want to do r squared, then I would take 9 squared and get 81. Alright, so I would like for you to finish the ones that we didn't do here, and then I'll put the answers up. So go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so there are your answers. You can go ahead and do a quick check on those. Okay, the next thing is that sometimes we're given a graph and we want to write the equation of the circle. So I still need the same pieces of information. I need that ordered pair that's the center of the circle, and then I need the radius. So here, just by looking at the graph, I can see that the center of the circle is over 3 and down 2, so that's going to be 3, negative 2. I can just count to figure out the radius, so I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can see that r is equal to 5. And then once I know that, I can do just what I did right here and determine the equation. So I'm going to have x minus 3 squared plus y minus a negative 2, so that's going to be plus 2 squared is equal to 5 squared, which is 25. Alright, next thing we're going to look at here is if you're given the center and a point on the circle. So I have the center, but I know what I'm missing here is r. So how am I going to figure out what r is? Well, if I know if I just look at this example here, if I know the center of a circle and I know one of the points on the circle, anywhere on that circle, I know I can determine the radius by using the distance formula. So this is our distance formula. We've used this a lot. Square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So we're just going to take these 2 points and we're going to calculate the distance. Our distance in this case is actually equal to our radius, because from our center to any point on that circle, that distance is going to be the radius. So here for this example, I am going to take r is equal to 7 minus 9 squared plus 4 minus 10 squared. From this point here, I just want to go ahead and simplify. What we end up with is the square root of 40. So now I know that the radius is equal to the square root of 40, so I can go ahead and take my values and use my center and my radius to determine what the equation of my circle is. Okay, so here I have x minus my center, x value is 9, so x minus 9 squared plus y minus 10 squared is equal to, and then the square of the square root of 40 is just going to be 40, right? So we put 40 here. Okay, go ahead and do the second one here and pause the video, and then you can check your answers. All right, and there's the answer to number 9. All right, so as you can see here, this section is all about giving you different pieces of information and you writing the equation of the circle. So our next scenario here is we're given the circumference and the area. Here, circumference, circumference, area, and area. We know the center, so what's left to figure out is going to be the radius. But we know if we know the circumference or the area, we can determine what that radius is. So just as a reminder, our formulas, we have the circumference is pi times d, or you could do circumference is 2 pi r, whichever one you prefer. And then our area is going to be pi r squared. So if we take this circumference here, we've got the circumference is equal to 6 pi. So if I know that 6 pi is equal to, that's my circumference, and I'm going to use 2 pi r because I know I want to solve for r anyway. So here, to solve for r, I'm going to divide both sides by 2 pi, and that gives me these canceling out, and 6 pi divided by 2 pi is going to be 3. So these pi's cancel, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now that I know that r is 3, I can just go ahead and I'm going to write r is equal to 3 here and then put it in. So x minus a negative 1 is going to be x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to 3 squared, which is going to be 9. Okay, so go ahead and do 13 and 15. Do 13 and 15, pause the video, and then we'll check your answers. Okay, there are your answers for 13 and 15, and the radius here was a decimal, but that was fine. And if you wanted to do 14, if you did that as well, here's the answer for that one. All right, lastly, they have going backwards. If you're given the equation of the circle, you want to identify the center and the radius or diameter. So here they give us the equation, so I know the center here is going to be the point 5, 1, and then I just want to think through what's the square root of 64. That would be my radius, because radius squared is equal to that 64 there. So 8 squared will give me that 64, so that's 8. For this one here, you can go ahead and work this. Just be careful then. Your answer is going to be diameter. So you want to determine what the radius is, and then, actually, I'll just go ahead and do this one. So our center is going to be negative 7, because x minus a negative 7 would give me x plus 7. And then my y value is going to be 2. And then here I look at this, and I know that the square root of 324 is 18. So 18 squared gave me that 324. The question though is, what is the diameter? So I need to multiply this by 2 to figure out that the diameter is 36. Okay, go ahead and do 18 and 19, pause the video, and then we'll check it. Okay, so here's the answer to 18 and 19. This one might seem a little tricky, but x squared is the same thing as x minus 0 squared, so that's how we get that center point of 0. And then when you took the square root of this, you did get a decimal answer, 6.5, but multiply it by 2 and you get the 13. Okay, and there's 19. All right, last thing is, if you would like a challenge, you do not have to do this part. Write the equation of a circle with diameter endpoints of these 2 points. So that means if you have your circle, you're going to look at your diameter, if that was the center, and these are the 2 points. All right, so you're going to need to think through what's the center. So remember, we use a midpoint formula where you could determine where that center is, and then you could also determine the radius by, once you know the center point and this point, use your distance formula, and then you'll be set. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll put the key up. Okay, so if you took the challenge, this is what you should have gotten for the midpoint. Then you would use the distance formula to figure out the distance between the center and one of the endpoints, so they chose -4, 1, you could have chosen something else. And then once you know what that radius is, we can plug that in, take the square root of 20, and then just plug in your order pair for the center. All right, so that's it for the equation of a circle.